I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual.
起立，面向佛堂，参加三鞠躬、一鞠躬、再鞠躬、三鞠躬，参加各位点传是一鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。Please be seated. So what is our purpose for the paraphrase? Is to demonstrate our complete understanding by expressing the original in our own words. So here's chapter 78. Now, as you recall, I divided up 78 into 3 sections. We got section 1, section 2, section 3, and you may remember that section 1 is all about water. And I hope when I talk about water, you remember the graphic that I showed you about Bruce Lee saying, "Be water, my friend." So nothing in the world is softer or weaker than water, and yet nothing is better at overcoming the hard and strong. This is because nothing can replace it. So the translation is already pretty clear on what Lao Tzu is trying to say. So how about if we try to say it in modern English words? What would that be? Here's what I would suggest. Water seems like the softest thing there is, and yet it excels in overcoming the hardest things. Nothing can stand against its power. It's the universal solvent, the most essential and irreplaceable element of all. Luckily, in our world, on Earth, water is also the most abundant element. In other worlds, other planets, not so much. Section 2. Section 2 talks about the weak overcoming the strong, soft overcoming the hard. Everybody in the world knows but cannot put into practice. So I definitely have a few comments to make about this, but let's take a look at the paraphrase first. We often bear witness to its power as water crashes through and washes away or corrodes and dissolves over time. We can see the soft overcoming the hard, so intellectually, we can understand it as a principle. Unfortunately, when it comes to applying that same principle to life, we usually fall short. Now, I don't know if anyone remembers, but last time I asked for people listening to look around and observe the world and see examples where we all know something and yet we can't actually put it into practice. So and I do believe that when you open your eyes, you'll see the patterns described by Lao Tzu everywhere. Just coming in today, from home to here at the temple, I was driving on the freeway, and I'm recalling to mind that recently in Southern California, there's been some pretty horrific auto accidents on the freeways. And when we talk about these accidents, more often than not, we're talking about multi-car pileups. So probably the same is true if you have freeways around where you live. And why is it such a thing? Why is it so often that when accidents occur, it's a multi-car pileup? Well, one of the contributing factors, maybe the biggest one, is that people follow too closely. They're sort of like tailgating the other car. There's not enough distance between the car in front to the car behind. So when the car in front has to make an emergency stop or crashes into something and brought to a stop or a drastic decrease in speed all of a sudden, there's really not enough time for the car behind to react. So that's at least 2 cars in a 2-car pileup. And then there's more. Other cars are also not following far enough behind, so they crash into the pile. Sometimes we get 10-car pileups, 20-car pileups, not unheard of. So it seems pretty obvious, everybody, that we all know it's a bad idea to follow the car in front too close. We all understand that intellectually. So in driver's ed, we're definitely taught to keep the appropriate distance between ourselves and the car in front. So can we actually apply that to life? Can we actually do it? Apparently not, because we're continuing to have the pileups every single day. Somewhere in the United States, there's a horrific accident that involves a multi-car pileup every day. Why is that? Perhaps it is just human nature. It's definitely a pattern. We know something intellectually, but we can't put it to work in a practical sense. So let's go to the last one here. Therefore, sages say the one who accepts the humiliation of the state is called his master. The one who accepts the misfortune of the state becomes king of the world. The truth seems like the opposite. So here's a paraphrase I would offer. When we encounter humiliating setbacks, we tend to respond with some combination of disbelief, shame, and anger. Only a sage can emulate water, accept the situation, and deal with it effectively. Likewise, when we encounter misfortune, we tend to dwell on how unfair it is and rage against it. Only a sage can be like water, flow with the situation, and turn it around. It is softness, not aggression, that ultimately leads to triumph. This is often the opposite of what we expect. What we usually expect is if life is tough, you just got to be tougher. Life is hard, you got to be harder. You got to work harder. The Tao is not about working harder, but working smarter. The Tao is not about being tougher than the tough life, but to be flexible and seeking alternative paths, better ways to get to the goal that you're after. So those are the commentaries that I wanted to offer to everyone, and I hope that you can see, just like the other chapters of the Tao Te Ching, chapter 78 is just an incredibly useful reference and advice for life. Let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual, everybody. 起立，面向佛堂，持架深鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，持架各位顶传十一鞠躬，结班一鞠躬。Well done, everybody. Thank you so much.